Independence is a powerful word, one that carries with it a sense of freedom, strength, and self-determination. For many women, it is a concept that has been slowly reclaimed, often against societal pressures and long-held beliefs. To walk alone without a husband, without a partner, is not a sign of loneliness or weakness, but rather a powerful declaration of one's ability to stand on their own 2 feet. It's a symbol of embracing who you are, your worth, and your potential, and saying to the world, I do not need anyone to complete me. I am already whole. In a world that often tells women they need to find a partner in order to feel complete, to be validated, or to have their lives fulfill some idealistic narrative, embracing independence is an act of courage. It challenges the norms that women are supposed to follow, from being someone's daughter to being someone's wife. The pressure to fit into these molds is immense, and for so long society has told women that their worth is tied to their relationships. But the reality is there is a profound beauty in the journey of self-discovery, in learning to trust oneself, and in carving out a life that reflects one's own dreams, not just the expectations of others. A woman who walks alone without a husband embodies freedom in its purest form. She does not need anyone else to define her or validate her worth. Her existence is not dependent on the presence of a partner, but rather on her ability to define her own purpose and follow her own path. She does not need to ask for permission to live the life she envisions for herself, and she understands that the joy and fulfillment she seeks are within her reach, regardless of whether she is in a relationship or not. In embracing independence, a woman learns to trust her instincts, rely on her own strength, and navigate life's challenges with resilience. She knows that she is capable of making decisions, facing adversity, and overcoming obstacles, and most importantly, she knows that she is enough, just as she is. Independence does not mean that she is closed off to love or companionship, but rather that she is not waiting for someone else to fill the voids in her life. She understands that her life is complete, and any relationship she enters will be an addition to her already rich and full existence. The woman who walks alone without a husband is not defined by her relationship status. She is not incomplete or lost. Instead, she is empowered. She is living proof that happiness does not come from external sources, but from within. She holds the power to create her own destiny, to live her life on her own terms, and to follow her passions without compromise. She understands that her journey is uniquely hers and that no one else can walk it for her. Embracing independence means being brave enough to stand tall, to be unapologetic about who you are, and to acknowledge that your worth is not determined by anyone but yourself. The woman who walks alone is not just surviving, she is thriving. And in doing so, she teaches others that they too have the power to stand alone and live the life they dream of. It's a life that celebrates the richness of self-love, the beauty of individuality, and the strength that comes from knowing who you are and what you're capable of achieving. Self-reliance is an extraordinary power, one that goes beyond mere independence. It is the ability to depend on oneself, to trust one's own judgment, capabilities, and resilience in the face of challenges. When a woman chooses to walk alone without a partner, she is not simply choosing to live independently. She is choosing to trust in herself, to acknowledge that she has all the tools she needs to navigate her journey. In this world where society often encourages dependency, self-reliance becomes an act of radical empowerment, a declaration that she is enough, that she can carve out her own path without the need for validation from anyone else. The true power of self-reliance is found in the deep trust one has in their own abilities. It is the understanding that life will not always be easy, that setbacks and obstacles will inevitably arise, but that you have the strength within you to overcome them. When a woman walks alone, she takes responsibility for her own happiness, success, and fulfillment. She knows that the choices she makes, the actions she takes, and the way she reacts to the world are entirely within her control. She is no longer waiting for someone else to step in and take charge of her life. She is the leader, the architect of her own destiny. In a world that often makes women feel as though they are incomplete or less worthy without a partner, self-reliance is a reminder that true fulfillment comes from within. It is easy to look to external factors, a partner, family, society, to define one's worth, but when you are self-reliant, you stop looking outside of yourself for affirmation. You become the source of your own strength and validation. This is where real freedom lies, the freedom to live life on your own terms without the need for anyone's approval or permission. Self-reliance also gives women the ability to navigate life with greater confidence. A woman who trusts in her own abilities will approach challenges with a mindset of problem-solving rather than defeat. She knows that even when faced with uncertainty, she has the resilience to adapt, to learn, and grow. This confidence extends to every aspect of her life, from her career choices to her personal development. When she encounters obstacles, instead of being overwhelmed by them, she sees them as opportunities to learn and evolve. Moreover, the power of self-reliance is not about isolation or rejection of help. It's about knowing when to rely on yourself and when to seek support from others. It's about maintaining a healthy sense of balance, acknowledging that while you are capable of handling your own affairs, you also recognize the value of community, friendship, and collaboration. A self-reliant woman understands that asking for help is not a sign of weakness, but an acknowledgement of strength. It takes great self-awareness and courage to know when you need support, and it is in these moments that she can continue to thrive, drawing from both her own inner strength and the wisdom of those around her. Self-reliance, then, is not just about surviving alone. It is about thriving through personal empowerment, resilience, and self-belief. It is about knowing that no matter what life throws your way, you are capable of standing strong, facing adversity head-on, and continuing forward with unwavering faith in your own abilities. A self-reliant woman is unstoppable, not because she does not face difficulties, but because she knows that she can always rely on herself to rise above them. And that, in itself, is a power like no other. Success is a deeply personal concept, one that means something different to everyone. For too long, society has defined success for women in narrow terms, often centered around marriage, family, and traditional roles. However, the woman who chooses to walk alone without a husband is not bound by these old-fashioned definitions. Instead, she redefines success on her own terms, choosing a path that resonates with her unique dreams, values, and aspirations. She is no longer waiting for approval or validation from anyone else. She is the architect of her own success story. Redefining success means liberating oneself from the conventional standards of achievement that society has set. A woman who walks alone understands that success is not measured by external markers like relationship status, financial wealth, or societal recognition. Instead, it is measured by her personal growth, the pursuit of her passions, and the ability to live authentically. She recognizes that true success is not about fitting into a mold, but about creating her own path, one that aligns with her values and brings her fulfillment. One of the greatest aspects of redefining success is the freedom it offers. When a woman walks alone, she is no longer bound by the expectations of others. She can chart her own course, make her own choices, and live life on her terms. This sense of freedom allows her to pursue careers, hobbies, and goals that resonate with her without the need to conform to societal expectations. Whether she chooses to build a successful business, travel the world, or dedicate herself to personal growth, she is empowered to shape her life in a way that feels true to her. Redefining success also means embracing the idea that failure is not the opposite of success, but a natural part of the journey. A woman who walks alone understands that setbacks are not signs of inadequacy, but opportunities to learn, grow, and evolve. She knows that her worth is not tied to perfection, but to the courage to keep moving forward, even when faced with obstacles. Every mistake, every failure is a lesson that brings her closer to her own definition of success. She doesn't fear failure because she understands it is not a reflection of her value, but a stepping stone on her path to personal fulfillment. Moreover, redefining success on her own terms allows her to embrace her individuality and celebrate her uniqueness. Society often tells women to conform, to follow a prescribed set of steps to be considered successful. But a woman who walks alone understands that success is not about fitting into someone else's expectations. It's about embracing her own journey, celebrating her individuality, and being proud of the person she is becoming. She understands that her value doesn't lie in comparison to others, but in the pursuit of her own dreams and aspirations. Ultimately, redefining success is about living authentically, free from the pressures to conform or live up to external standards. A woman who walks alone understands that she does not need a partner or anyone else to validate her worth. She defines success through her own experiences, her growth, and the impact she has on the world around her. Whether it's in her career, her personal relationships, or her contributions to society, her success is determined by her ability to live with purpose and passion. She is no longer confined by anyone else's expectations, but has created a life that reflects who she truly is and what she wants to achieve. In embracing this new definition of success, the woman who walks alone paves the way for future generations of women to do the same. She shows them that success is not a one-size-fits-all concept, and that it is not tied to traditional roles or societal expectations. Success is about self-discovery, self-love, and the courage to live life authentically. She teaches others that they too have the power to define their own success and create a life that truly fulfills them. Challenging stereotypes is one of the most powerful acts a woman can undertake, especially when she walks alone without a partner. Society has long tried to impose certain labels and expectations on women, often viewing them through a narrow, limited lens. A woman who chooses to walk alone without a husband or partner directly challenges these outdated stereotypes, proving that her worth is not tied to anyone else's narrative of what a woman should be. This act of defiance not only redefines the narrative of womanhood, but also forces society to question the assumptions it has long held about women's roles, desires, and purpose. One of the most common stereotypes that women face when they walk alone is the belief that they are somehow incomplete or lacking. Society often portrays a woman's worth as being contingent upon her relationships, particularly her relationship with a man. A woman who is unmarried or without a partner is often viewed as missing something, as though her life has no meaning or direction without the validation of a significant other. But this assumption is entirely misguided. A woman who walks alone is not incomplete. She is whole, powerful, and capable of living a fulfilling and meaningful life on her own terms. She knows that her worth comes from within, not from someone else's approval or presence. Another stereotype that women who walk alone face is the notion that they are somehow lonely or lacking in social connections. There's an unfortunate assumption that a woman who is not married or in a relationship is lonely, desperate, or somehow unable to form meaningful relationships. This stereotype fails to acknowledge the rich and diverse relationships that women can cultivate in their lives, from friendships to family bonds to professional connections. A woman who walks alone is not isolated. She is a person who has chosen to focus on her own growth, to invest in herself, and to build relationships that support her on her journey. She is surrounded by people who value her for who she is, not for the role she plays in a partnership. Additionally, women who walk alone often face the stereotype that they are somehow unlovable or undesirable. There's a misguided belief that if a woman is not in a relationship, there must be something wrong with her. This stereotype not only devalues her individual worth, but also perpetuates the harmful idea that a woman's value is dependent on being chosen by a man. The reality, however, is that a woman who walks alone is not unlovable. She is simply choosing not to settle for anything less than what she deserves. She understands that love is not about filling a void, but about finding a connection that adds value to her already full and fulfilling life. Challenging these stereotypes requires immense strength and courage, especially when societal pressure is so pervasive. A woman who walks alone chooses to break free from the constraints of traditional gender roles. She refuses to adhere to the idea that she needs a partner to be happy, successful, or validated. Instead, she embraces her individuality, her independence, and her ability to navigate life on her own terms. She is a beacon of empowerment, showing the world that a woman can be complete, strong, and thriving without adhering to society's outdated standards. In challenging these stereotypes, a woman who walks alone not only redefines her own life, but also paves the way for other women to do the same. She shows them that it is okay to walk alone, to forge their own paths, and to live lives that are authentic to who they are. By challenging these harmful assumptions, she helps create a world where women are no longer judged by their relationship status, but by the strength, intelligence, and resilience they bring to the world. She inspires future generations to live boldly, to trust themselves, and to challenge the stereotypes that have long sought to define them. Courage in the face of judgment is one of the defining qualities of a woman who chooses to walk alone without a husband. Living independently in a world that often views women through a lens of expectation and judgment takes tremendous strength. Every step she takes is met with scrutiny, every decision is analyzed, and her very existence is often subject to the opinions of others. Despite this, the woman who walks alone rises above the judgments of society with an unwavering resolve to stay true to herself and her path. She does not bend to external pressures, but rather draws on an inner well of courage that enables her to navigate the world with grace and confidence. In a world that continually tells women they should be partnered or married, a woman who walks alone is often met with unsolicited opinions and harsh judgments. People will wonder why she hasn't settled down, why she is not following the expected path, or even insinuate that something is wrong with her for choosing a life of independence. These judgments are rooted in outdated societal norms that tie a woman's worth to her relationship status. But the woman who walks alone understands that her life is hers to live, not to conform to the expectations of others. She knows that her choices are valid, that her worth is not defined by others' limited viewpoints, and that she has every right to design a life that brings her happiness and fulfillment. The courage to stand in the face of judgment is not about disregarding others' opinions entirely. Instead, it is about choosing which voices to listen to and which to ignore. A woman who walks alone learns to tune out the noise of society's expectations, recognizing that judgment often comes from a place of ignorance or fear. When people judge her for her independence, it is often because they cannot understand or accept the power in choosing a different path. But she knows that she is not beholden to anyone's ideas of what her life should look like. Her decisions are grounded in her personal desires and values, not in seeking approval or fitting into preconceived molds. The courage to walk alone also means facing the vulnerability of being misunderstood. A woman who chooses not to follow the traditional path of marriage and partnership is often viewed as an anomaly, someone who is against the grain or even rebellious. This can be isolating, and the fear of being alone, not just physically but emotionally, can weigh heavily. Yet the woman who walks alone understands that vulnerability is not a weakness but a strength. She is unafraid to stand alone because she knows that her own company is enough. She does not need external validation to feel complete. She is grounded in the knowledge that her self-worth comes from within. Courage in the face of judgment also means accepting the fact that the road she walks will not always be easy. People will question her choices, her independence, and her ability to succeed without the support of a partner. But rather than shrinking away from these challenges, she faces them head-on. Every judgment becomes an opportunity for her to demonstrate her resilience, her ability to overcome obstacles, and her unwavering commitment to living a life that is true to herself. She knows that her path, though unconventional, is a reflection of her courage and her determination to live authentically. Ultimately, courage in the face of judgment is about owning one's choices, standing firm in the belief that the way she chooses to live her life is valid and worthy. A woman who walks alone without a husband is not afraid to stand up to the judgment of others. She is willing to be her own advocate, to live according to her values, and to prove that happiness, fulfillment, and success are not tied to any one specific relationship model. Her courage shows the world that it is possible to be strong, independent, and unapologetic in the face of judgment. And that true strength lies in embracing who you are, no matter what others may think. Empowering future generations is one of the most profound impacts that a woman who walks alone without a husband can have. By choosing a path of independence and self-reliance, she sets a powerful example for those who come after her. Her decision to live life on her own terms, free from the constraints of societal expectations, sends a message to young girls and women everywhere. Their worth is not determined by their relationship status, and they have the power to shape their lives based on their own desires, dreams, and values. She becomes a beacon of possibility, demonstrating that there are multiple paths to happiness and success, and each one is equally valid. A woman who walks alone empowers future generations by showing them the strength and beauty of independence. She teaches them that they do not need to follow a prescribed route laid out by others. Society often pushes women toward a narrative that culminates in marriage and family, but she proves that fulfillment can be found in many forms: in building a career, exploring passions, traveling the world, and discovering personal growth. By living her life unapologetically, she shows future generations that they too can create their own stories, free from the pressure to conform to external expectations. Her journey also offers a crucial lesson in self-worth. A woman who walks alone understands that her value is intrinsic, not based on her relationship status. She instills in young women the belief that their worth is not dependent on being chosen by someone else, but on their own actions, achievements, and ability to navigate the world with confidence and grace. By witnessing her confidence and self-assuredness, young girls learn that their happiness does not lie in waiting for someone else to define their worth. It comes from within. They learn that self-love and self-respect are foundational to any meaningful relationship, and that they must first be whole on their own before they can truly connect with others. Moreover, her example helps to challenge and dismantle harmful stereotypes that women are somehow incomplete without a partner. She teaches future generations that being single is not synonymous with being lonely or lacking, and that independence is not a sign of weakness but a mark of strength. By choosing to walk alone, she defies societal norms and redefines what it means to live a fulfilling life. She empowers young women to reject the notion that they need to fulfill anyone else's idea of success or happiness, and to instead embrace their own unique journey. Through her courage and resilience, a woman who walks alone also empowers future generations to face adversity with strength. Life will inevitably present challenges, and many of them will come in the form of judgment, criticism, or external pressure. But by watching her navigate these challenges with grace and perseverance, young girls and women learn that they too can overcome anything that stands in their way. They learn that setbacks are not failures, but stepping stones toward growth and strength, and that the courage to stand tall in the face of adversity is one of the most important qualities a person can possess. Ultimately, the impact of a woman who walks alone extends far beyond her own life. Her decision to live authentically and unapologetically creates ripples of change that affect future generations. She is paving the way for young girls to dream big, to pursue their passions, and to live lives of purpose, regardless of what society dictates. She teaches them that they have the power to choose their path, to redefine success, and to live a life full of fulfillment and joy, all on their own terms. Through her example, she shows that the future is full of endless possibilities and is theirs for the taking.